In the last screencast for Chapter 11, we are going to talk about viruses. Now, viruses are small particles that contain anywhere from 3 to 200 genes that can infect any cell type. And so viruses can't make their own proteins or energy, so they have to kind of infect a cell, and they trick the cell into doing it for them. So they contain only parts really needed to infect the cell. Now, viruses have their own nucleic acids, but use the ribosomes and RNA of the infected cell, also called the host cell, to make their proteins. So viruses use the ribosomes and the RNA of the infected cell, which is also called a host cell, to make their proteins. So here's a list of common viruses that we run into. Here, luckily, we have a lot of vaccines that can help us fight against these viruses. So how exactly does this work? Well, we have a virus capsid. So we're going to start and look at the virus structure first. Viruses contain nucleic acids, and they contain either DNA or RNA. Ooh. I'm getting ahead of myself. So they contain either DNA or RNA in a protein coat called a capsid. Okay. So when we look at this kind of generic virus here are the nucleic acids, and it's either DNA or RNA, and they're in the capsid that's shown here. Now, many viruses also have a protective kind of envelope around here, this outer kind of area here that surrounds the capsid. And the function of the viruses is really to monopolize the functions of the host cell. You're also going to notice there's some protein spikes here. Now, and they're also, not all viruses have them, but a lot do, and they kind of have a variety of functions. Now, so viruses are different. They have different shapes. They have some different components, but the function of all viruses is the same. They're going to monopolize the function of the host cell for the benefit of the virus. So a virus infects a cell when an enzyme in the protein coat makes a hole in the host cell. And this allows the viral nucleic acid to enter the cell and mix with that host cell material. Now, so let's look at this process. So we have a host cell here, okay, and the virus comes along and it attaches to the host cell and enters the host cell, okay. Now, if the virus contains DNA, the host cell is going to replicate the viral DNA, okay. If the host cell, so when we talk about this, the completed virus particles, so if we look at, let me rephrase. So when we come in here, right, the host cell is going to start DNA viral replication. Okay. The completed virus particles are going to be assembled from this and released from the cell to go infect more cells. This generally occurs by budding, where these guys just kind of pop off the surface. If you have time, there's some really kind of interesting images of viral budding that you can search on the internet and find. And so they go on and they make more virus particles and infect more host cells. Now, vaccines are often inactive or weakened forms of viruses, and they can boost our immune response by causing the body to produce antibodies, and then the antibodies will come and fight the viral cells for us. Now, because antibiotics are only effective against bacterial infections, they are useless against viral infections. But we do have, of course, some antivirals now that can be of use. So I did want to take a second and talk about HIV and AIDS. HIV is a retrovirus, and it's responsible for AIDS. It infects white blood cells known as lymphocytes, and these are just part of the immune system. And if you're interested in that, you can take immunology. And what happens is they really, when they infect those immune cells, they deplete them, they kill them. So what happens is the virus bursts out and the cell itself is completely killed. And this is what I was talking about with some really kind of interesting images of HIV, the virus bursting out of the lymphocyte cells. It's a really interesting image. So because it kind of hijacks the immune cells, it reduces a person's ability to fight off all the other infections. And so a lot of times people would die from secondary infections. However, HIV and AIDS treatment has come a long way. There's some really great cocktail drugs that inhibit the life cycle of the virus during replication and protein synthesis, which is one of the things that has happened in my lifetime. I find it just amazing. HIV and AIDS used to be a death sentence to anybody who got it, and now people can live a really long time. So I find this development to be quite amazing. So it's got a much now longer, prolonged life expectancy than when I was in high school or college. So it's kind of interesting, an interesting application of kind of modern medicine, which I find interesting. Well, this ends our Chapter 11 screencast. We are done with Chapter 11 and done with the course. Please, as always, email me if you have any questions.